Imagine sweetening your morning coffee or your favorite baked treat without adding a single calorie. Sounds like magic, right? Well, that's where natural sweeteners like monk fruit and stevia come in. These two plant-based sugar alternatives have taken the health world by storm, promising a guilt-free sweetness that doesn't spike your blood sugar. But which one truly deserves a spot in your pantry? In today's video, we're diving deep into the sweet showdown between monk fruit and stevia. We'll explore where they come from, how they're made, how they taste, and whether one is actually better for your health than the other. Stick around. You might be surprised which sweetener wins out. Let's explore, right here, on History of Simple Things. Let's start with the basics. Monk fruit, also known as luo han guo, comes from a small green melon native to southern China. It's been used in traditional Chinese medicine for centuries, mostly for treating coughs and sore throats. But its rise to fame in the Western world came much later, thanks to the discovery that this tiny fruit packs an incredible punch of sweetness, up to 200 times sweeter than sugar, without the calories. The secret lies in compounds called mogrosides, especially mogroside 5, which give monk fruit its intense sweetness without affecting blood glucose levels. The fruit itself is rarely eaten fresh because it spoils quickly, so the sweetener we buy is usually an extract. On the other hand, stevia comes from the leaves of the Stevia rebaudiana plant, native to South America. Indigenous peoples of Paraguay and Brazil have used stevia leaves for hundreds of years to sweeten teas and medicines. Modern stevia sweeteners are made by extracting compounds called stevioglycosides, primarily rebaudioside A and stevioside. So both monk fruit and stevia are plant-based, calorie-free, and have a long history of traditional use. But that's where the similarities begin to diverge. Now let's talk about flavor, because let's be honest, if a sweetener doesn't taste good, it doesn't matter how healthy it is. Monk fruit extract is often praised for its clean, sweet taste with little to no aftertaste. Some people even find it tastes remarkably close to sugar. However, when mixed with other ingredients or used in baking, it can sometimes have a bit of a fruity or herbal undertone. Stevia, on the other hand, has a bit of a reputation. While it's undeniably sweet, many people report a bitter or licorice-like aftertaste, especially in higher concentrations. This is due to certain glycosides like stevioside. However, newer stevia blends, particularly those that isolate rebaudioside A or use fermentation-derived forms, tend to be much smoother and less bitter than older versions. In blind taste tests, monk fruit often edges out stevia in terms of taste alone. But this can vary from person to person. If you're sensitive to bitter flavors, you might find monk fruit to be the more pleasant option. When it comes to health, both monk fruit and stevia offer impressive benefits. Since they contain no calories or carbohydrates, neither will spike blood sugar, making them excellent choices for people with diabetes or those on low-carb diets like keto. In fact, research has shown that both sweeteners may support better blood sugar control when used in place of regular sugar. Stevia has been studied a bit more extensively. Some research suggests that it may have additional health benefits like lowering blood pressure, reducing oxidative stress, and possibly even providing anti-inflammatory effects. However, most of these effects come from the whole leaf or less refined extracts, not necessarily the highly purified versions used in commercial sweeteners. Monk fruit is relatively newer to the scientific spotlight, but early research suggests it may have antioxidant properties thanks to those mogrosides. It's also considered non-toxic, and there have been no reported negative effects in human studies at typical consumption levels. Both are generally recognized as safe, GRAs, by the US FDA, although whole stevia leaf and raw stevia extracts are still not approved as food additives in the US due to insufficient data. One of the most fascinating parts of these sweeteners is how they're processed. After all, you can't just pick a leaf or a fruit and sprinkle it on your pancakes. To make monk fruit sweetener, the fruit is harvested, dried, and then crushed. The mugrosides are extracted using water and then separated from other compounds to leave behind the pure sweet part. Sometimes monk fruit is mixed with other ingredients like erythritol to make it easier to measure and use in recipes. Stevia, meanwhile, goes through a similar process. The leaves are harvested, steeped in water, and the steviol glycosides are extracted and purified. Many modern stevia products are created using enzymatic conversion or fermentation technology to improve taste and consistency. Just like monk fruit, it's often blended with other sweeteners to reduce bitterness and improve usability. So while they're both natural, keep in mind that the final product isn't exactly what comes straight from the plant, it's a refined extract. Now let's say you're ready to replace sugar in your favorite brownie recipe. Which of these sweeteners would hold up better? Stevia is widely used in everything from beverages to baked goods, but it can be tricky in baking. Because it's so much sweeter than sugar, you need only a tiny amount, which means you lose the volume and texture sugar usually provides. That's why most stevia baking blends include bulking agents like maltodextrin or erythritol. Monk fruit works similarly. It's also very concentrated, so it's usually paired with erythritol or allulose to mimic sugar's bulk. However, many people find monk fruit blends to have a more neutral taste and better performance in recipes where sweetness is front and center. So, if you're planning to bake a birthday cake or whip up a batch of cookies, monk fruit might be the easier swap. But again, it depends on your flavor preference. Here's the practical part: cost and availability. Stevia has been around longer in the market, so it's often cheaper and easier to find, especially in grocery stores and online. There's also a wider variety of stevia-based products, from tabletop sweeteners to soda to protein powders. Monk fruit, while growing in popularity, is still more expensive. The fruit itself is harder to grow, and the extraction process is more complex, which drives up the price. Still, more brands are starting to use monk fruit in everything from chocolate bars to sports drinks, so expect to see more options as demand grows. All right, here's the million-dollar question: monk fruit or stevia? Which one is better? It depends on what matters most to you. If you're looking for a sweetener with more research backing, stevia has the edge. It's also more affordable and widely available. But if you're sensitive to bitter aftertastes or want a cleaner, more sugar-like flavor, monk fruit might be the winner. Both are natural alternatives to sugar with 0 calories and minimal impact on blood sugar, and both can be part of a healthy diet when used in moderation. At the end of the day, the best natural sweetener is the one that fits your taste, your lifestyle, and your budget. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.